welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps and, of course, featuring Spotify. I thank each and every one of you for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to have you back on board with me once again today as the Minnesota Vikings hosted the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football and pulled off one of the great upsets in a long time, 22-17 over the San Francisco 49ers. None of us saw this coming. I certainly didn't. I mean, it's like there's always this chance, and of course the Vikings tend to play up to their opponents and play down to their opponents, that type of thing. So we'll have to wait and see, but the Vikings' upcoming schedule against Green Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans, Denver, and Chicago could be promising. So the Vikings might end up having a winning record this season after all, despite how terrible and putrid and stupid this season started. You just never know, but I mean, I'm not getting my hopes too high. I mean, we all know what kind of season it's been, and of course the season started the same way that it pretty much has been, a turnover on the opening drive. An interception by Kirk Cousins in this case.
Here we go. Oh, what? Come on!
But of course you're going to have a turnover on the opening drive. It's the 2023 Minnesota Vikings, kind of similar to the 21 Vikings when there was always that game or 2 games or 3 games or 4 games or 5 or 6 games that we should have won, damn it. And, you know, the Vikings could have been 5-2. Think about it. Just, you know, you take care of business versus Tampa Bay and the LA Chargers. Very winnable games. We were in them the entire time. And, well, we lost. So it's like that's 5-2 right there with the win over the 49ers. We would have a tiebreaker against the 49ers right now. Do you realize how weird and crazy that sounds? It's absolutely nuts. We also got to see, I almost called him Kalen Addison. That's Minnesota Wild. How about Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings having his kind of Randy Moss and Lambeau Field type of a game? Unfortunately, the Vikings aren't 4-0 or 7-0 or whatever the heck it could have been. 7-0 if we were undefeated like the Vikings were way back in 98 in Lambeau Field where there was too much moss in the end zone. So a nice breakout Monday night performance by Jordan Addison. I'm going to consider you already have Justin Jefferson, who's considered the best receiver in all of football, and you see a guy like Jordan Addison have a breakout party, a coming out party like that on Monday Night Football. Extremely exciting. So you might notice my tone of voice is a little different because I'm trying to keep it down a bit. I'm recording segment number 1 pretty quickly after the game just to kind of keep things fresh, keep the whole mindset fresh, and enjoy as also watching the replays and all that going on in the background here because that's what you want to see. Also, congratulations to the Texas Rangers advancing to the World Series for the first time since 2011 and seeking their first ever World Series title ever. They went in 2010 and 2011 and lost them both, unfortunately. First one to Bruce Bochy and the San Francisco Giants, and the second one was to the St. Louis Cardinals. Now Bruce Bochy is managing the Texas Rangers all these years later. His first year as manager of the Texas Rangers, and he gets them to the World Series. So kind of exciting. Again, trying to keep things down a bit. I want to let my wife sleep. She has to get up early, and I want to get the first segment in. Of course, you'll notice the show will be released on Tuesday, or is being released on Tuesday, and you're like, well, then what the heck happened? Well, of course, waiting for the fan interaction and all that. Rather let that kind of bleed out a bit. It would be nice to have the show up and fresh and maybe have you guys all ready to go, but it's a late night thing. I mean, I need to get up early too, just not as early as my wife. So it is what it is. This is my life right now, unfortunately. Just watching Brock Purdy scamper for probably his best scamper of the game, of course, as that finally got the 49ers on the board. But no, it didn't. It could have. At least they hoped, right? Ha ha ha. Just making fun of the whole situation. A missed field goal by the 49er kicker from only 40 yards out. That's kind of like, and it's indoors. It's unacceptable, but both kickers missed. Both kickers had a disappointing day. And even the Vikings punter, him being Ryan Wright, another touchback. Like, he never did that last year, so weird. But the Vikings offense so proficient for the most part, that at least proficient enough to get it within scoring range, a field goal or a touchdown. on most of the drives other than the interception, of course, at the beginning of the game. Ryan Wright with only one punt of 42 yards with a touchback. So kind of weird. Greg Joseph missed a field goal in the game and also missed an extra point, which was disappointing, but still wound up with 10 total points. So for fantasy purposes, that's nice, but whatever. Jake Moody made a 55-yarder but couldn't make a 40-yarder. Go figure. That's always an urban legend for me. How guys can make them from Timbuktu, yet can't make them. That was interesting. Sorry, yet can't make them. Significantly closer. Like 40 yards indoors. I don't know. Jordan Addison, yeah, I might read about something he has to say quick. Cam Bynum also just an absolutely big day with multiple interceptions, including the game icing one. Brock Purdy not as sharp the past couple weeks. Cleveland beat the 49ers last week, and now you're seeing the 49ers get beat by the Minnesota Vikings in US Bank Stadium. So an incredibly impressive victory for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, will I get the downloads that I did when Christian Ponder beat the 49ers in 2012? That'd be pretty cool. Or say Favre with a miracle play over the 49ers in 2009. That was amazing. Greg Lewis, not Jennings, Greg Lewis. Yes, Cam Bynum had the big interception in the end zone, which made a huge difference. You also got to see Alexander Mattison drop a touchdown again, so I don't know, what the hell. He had a nice carry in the game for 19 yards. That brought his average way up. Otherwise, it would have been 7 carries for 20 yards. Like, think about that. So, pretty wild. But also the dropped pass, you pretty much saw nothing of Madison in the second half. Cam Akers took over and was mediocre. 10 carries, 31 yards, 3.1 a carry for a long of 13. I like Cam Akers. There's like weird rumors about the Vikings trading for Dalvin Cook because it's not working out in New York. Why would you trade for Dalvin Cook? Like, what for? It's cute and everything. I'd rather just go with Cam Akers, honestly. Cam Akers is younger. Cam Akers is younger. I'll take my chances with him, to be quite honest. Madison, not known as a good blocker, and that's annoying. I suppose Cook was a little better. That's great. Kirk Cousins, other than that stupid interception, he spilled grape jelly on his shirt early in the game. Pretty dominant the rest of the way. Amazingly, only 2 touchdowns, but both of them pretty cool, pretty great. A 30-yarder and then a 60-yarder, which was obviously not a deep, super deep pass. It was about a 25 to 30-yard pass, and then Jordan Addison ripped the ball away from the defender and then took off all the way to the end zone, which had the fans going absolutely berserk. Very exciting moment, and arguably the play of the entire game, other than Cam Bynum's closing interception. So an overall very exciting day. A guy that's been leading the NFL in sacks this year. It's just he's Danielle Hunter again, and well, that would be Danielle Hunter. yeah. I believe he has 9 now because I remember him having 8 coming into the game. So I don't know why it's still saying 8, other than maybe that just don't update. I guess not, but I believe he leads the NFL in sacks with 9, and again technically a linebacker because of 3-4 set. Brian Flores, absolutely, he's a huge game changer for the Minnesota Vikings. He truly is. Just night and day with the defensive coordinator versus what we had last year. There's no way this Viking defense would have done what they did today to Brock Purdy, and the way the Vikings contained a hurt but able to play Christian McCaffrey, who did have a fumble lost in the game, along with an overall kind of not so great day. The Vikings contained him pretty good. They kept him to a long of 9 with a touchdown. So of course he was going to get a touchdown. He received a touchdown as well. So it's not like we contained him that much. All-purpose yards just under 100. But still, it's not like he freaking dominated us into the night. Still, we contained him for the most part, particularly the running game. The Vikings did a pretty good job there. Brock Purdy, that 17-yard scamper for a first down and more, was cute and everything. Other than that, he had 2 yards on 4 other carries, so that's a whole lot of nothing there at the end of the day. The running game wasn't all that special for both teams. Obviously, San Francisco's got one of the best defenses in the National Football League, and the Vikings have a ever-improving defense, despite giving up, 200-plus yards to the Philadelphia Eagles weeks and weeks ago, and other games as well. I believe even against Carolina, the run defense wasn't all that good, and even against Chicago, the run defense wasn't too spectacular, but was adequate. Jordan Addison, in a lot of ways, was the story of the game, other than T.J. Hawkinson who was kind of the early spark plug for the Vikings, wound up with 11 total catches, 86 yards. That's a lot like Hawkinson last year, who was in a lot of ways, as PA might call him, a nookie blankie for Kirk Cousins in a lot of ways. Brandon Powell added 4 catches for 64 yards, a 27-yard long. Nice to see what he can do. And Akers, yeah, he did have a 30-yard play, in the game. Obviously, he had 1 catch for nothing and then another catch for 30 yards. So, catch and scamper type of play. Ty Chandler also showing that speed on the 1 catch for 12 yards. I thought he ran the ball as well, but what the heck? I thought there were 2 plays, so maybe we're getting him mixed up with Cam Akers somewhere along the way. KJ Osborne, adequate. 5 catches for 47 yards and 6 targets. So, obviously, adequate. He had an 18-yard play. Hawkinson had a 22-yard play. Addison was the play of the game with a 60-yard play, which was mostly by him. Obviously, a great catch. A very good throw by Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, the defender almost ripped it away from Addison, but Addison ended up winning that battle, which was pretty damn cool. And then he was able to explode to the end zone for another 30 yards or so. That's really good. The Vikings won the takeaway battle, so that's like a miracle, to say the least. The Vikings won the takeaway battle. Wow. Yeah, there was 1 interception by Shafaris Ward, again, very early in the game, but Cam Bynum with 2 interceptions, and then also the fumble recovery by Dean Lowry. That's right. So, pretty cool. Yes, fumble lost by Christian McCaffrey. That's who it was. Yep, multiple interceptions. So the Vikings won the turnover battle, the give, take, whatever, 3-1. So it's about freaking time something like that happened. Another great game by Josh Metellus, but Cam Bynum was probably the best. Just he had an unbelievable day, generally speaking. Again, multiple interceptions. So cool. 7 solo tackles, but then again, in the secondary, sometimes it's because you're getting thrown to as well. But still, hey, he made the plays he needed to, Cam Bynum. But again, he plays more of a safety role. So, yeah, I mean, safeties are supposed to make the tackles. They're not necessarily one-on-one with people like cornerbacks are, like, say, Byron Murphy Jr., who continues to be mediocre, unfortunately. He's been a little disappointing. I'm just being honest there. It's too bad. Jordan Addison also made a tackle on the game because of the interception. But yeah, luckily that ball wasn't intercepted again. Which wound up being a huge turnaround, a 60-yard interception, 60-yard touchdown. Pardon me, instead of an interception. It's just crazy how things like that can really, really turn a game, and man, make fans ever so excited. And it's just that was a huge, huge moment late in the first half. I mean, the Vikings were just, hoping to maybe get in field goal range or something with just like 9 seconds left. And then Addison scampers into the end zone. It was just, an absolutely exquisite and wonderful moment. And it's like, oh my God, we might win this game. I mean, the Vikings might win this freaking game. It's so cool. We might actually win the game. It was a wonderful, wonderful vibe. Again, am I like overly confident that here we go, we're gonna go all the way, this and that? Damn it, go away, you fudge knucker. Sorry, pardon my French there. Yeah, I apologize for the stupidity there, but the Vikings' chances. What was I saying here? It's just that was like, oh my God, we might actually beat these guys. But then, of course, Greg Joseph, takes all the momentum out of the building with a missed extra point. It's like, you stupid son of a biscuit. Why'd you have to miss that? Come on, man. Greg Joseph missed a PAT last week, and, he's not had a good couple weeks. Like, stop raining on the parade, dude. Stop with the, stop dropping jelly on your shirt. I know, you're probably sick of hearing that, but I'm going to keep saying it. What do you think of that? Just kidding. And yeah, Addison, of course, also a grape jelly by dropping the bleeping ball. The grape jelly award. The grape, it is what it is. You had the missed extra point by Greg Joseph, and then Addison freaking drops the ball in the end zone, which could have really, really busted the game open, put the Vikings in position to really, what would it have been? As long as the son of a gun made his extra point, 26. No. It would have been 23-7. I mean, that's a beautiful score. 23-7. I mean, that's pretty crazy. early in the, midway through the third quarter. But then Christian McCaffrey ends up scoring, and then it's like, they're at 14 points now, 19-14. This is getting tighter and tighter. Joseph did make a 54-yarder. That was really nice. 10 plays, 50 yards on the drive. But what a great play. It's just scary how the Niners just drove down the field on only 3 plays. Only 3 plays for 75 yards in like a minute 5 after Addison dropped that ball. I bet everybody thought, we're going to lose now. But luckily that didn't happen. Moody got the Niners that 55-yarder after missing a 40-yarder earlier. It's a one-score game at odd 22-17. What the hell is that type of score? But luckily the Vikings defense would get the job done. Defense, particularly in Cam Bynum's case, at the end of the day. Big plays, and it made us all feel so freaking good, so freaking special. It's just funny, once again, turnover on the opening drive. But at least it was a win over the San Francisco 40 bleeping Niners, who lost in Cleveland. Shut up, you asshole. Sorry, I apologize. God, that's annoying. I don't want to turn the sound off necessarily because I got to be able to record. It's the one thing I hate about ESPN. Do you have to have these noisy ads? Idiots. So Brandon Ayuk with 57 yards receiving. Juwan Jennings, not Greg Jennings, but Juwan Jennings with 54 yards receiving for the 49ers. Not the more familiar names on the Niners, but oh goody. Wonderful day, though. Wonderful day for the Vikings. Again, I hope this ends up. I hope this isn't too short, but I guess it's like me. It's better than me babbling and repeating myself 55 times. Yeah, probably. It's just funny. Last year, the Vikings won 13 games, 13 bleeping games, 13-4, and ended up losing against a below-average, honest to God, a below-average Giants team that had no business even being in the playoffs. It was stupid. And until the last 2 weeks, the Giants have sucked. Ever since that playoff game, ever since beating the Vikings, they've just sucked. And then you get this year, we've looked like buffoons. Turning the ball over on the opening drive, getting behind early, and never really catching up, and just kind of peeing down our leg or crapping the bed or whatever frickin' term you want to come up with. And then we beat the 49ers. It's games like this. We just really didn't do all that much. During the Kevin O'Connell era, we beat the mediocre to below to above average teams. We beat the above average teams. Sometimes we screw around with the below average teams and then get obliterated by the super good ones. Like Dallas came into, US Bank Stadium after we beat the Bills, which was an amazing day. That was the defining win last season. Which actually does scare me going against the Packers next week. It scares the crap out of me. That was the defining win last year. I mean, let's not forget that. Buffalo was considered the best team in the league at the time, and the Vikings won on the road, of all things. So I'm not sure I can call this the best win in O'Connell's history, because it's like, wait a minute, the Buffalo game, as that was a conversation on the Score North, vent line, of course, with Mackie Judd and Declan Goff. Because obviously I like to listen to that a little bit, get a vibe before I start recording segment 1 of Purple Mafia. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, that was what they were saying. This is probably the best win in Kevin O'Connell's career so far. And then it's like, is it though? Because we beat Buffalo on the road. Do you understand what a big deal that is? And I love this 49ers team. I mean, they're probably better than Buffalo. They probably would beat Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Or would they? These last 2 weeks have not been good. But the good news for them, it's just 2 losses, and that's it. It's not like they had a third one earlier or something, So San Francisco still has a chance to win 13 or 14 or 15 games, for Pete's sake. They still have a chance. I don't think they're going to win 15, but 13 or 14 games, have home field advantage and take care of business. A game like this could cost them, though, home field advantage, kind of like last year when the 49ers did not have home field advantage. And then, of course, Brock Purdy injures his his elbow, before the game even starts practically. It was like the first drive of the game. It was so depressing. And then the Eagles pounded the 49ers after that. But unfortunately, that's kind of sports. Sorry, noise. I apologize. But it kind of is what it is. I'm starting to sweat here. But with all of that said, an amazing win, a fun night against the San Francisco 49ers. And hopefully this does end up catapulting the Vikings and going in the right direction, and it doesn't wind up being a massive letdown just the next week when the Dallas Cowboys came into US Bank Stadium and said, You beat Buffalo? Yeah, well, you're not beating us. Boom, strip sack, and everything after that was just like reality check, reality check. Yeah, Super Bowl, my ass. You're not going anywhere. You'll be lucky to get out of the first round this year. Exactly. Anyhow, the Fran Tarkington Award winner for this episode is Jordan Addison. Extremely strong. Honorable mention for Cam Bynum. In fact, I could give him a Tarkington Award because he was huge in the game. It's just Addison, I think, should get the nod. He was the Randy Moss. It was Randy Moss on Monday Night Football, but this one in US Bank Stadium against the 49ers, that type of deal. It wasn't a rainy night in Lambeau like way back in all those years ago when I was a very, very young adult in 1998. 19 years of age. Very fun, though. Yes, that's how old I am, for those of you that are much younger. But where am I going with this? Yeah, the Christian Potter Memorial has to go to Greg Joseph, and guess who? It's going to be a share. Like Greg Joseph missing the kick and the extra point is scary and frustrating, but Addison has to get it as well. They have to share it. They're going to actually share it. It's not going to be just one or the other. It's going to be a share. Alexander Madison, not Addison. Alexander Mattison is going to share the Christian Potter Memorial with your friend Greg Joseph. Super disappointing. I have to tell you, I did record segment number 2 last night. So, because you're hearing this for the first time here, obviously, I was talking about it the whole bleeping time I was recording segment number 2 last night, but I'm saying it now. Segment number 2 was recorded last night. I did not have a good vibe coming into this 49ers game. I thought the Vikings would get beat. I didn't think we'd get slaughtered. I thought it would be, if I remember, relatively close, but the Vikings would find a way to not win, kind of like the Chiefs game. Now I'm forgetting what my prediction was last week. But that's what I think that's what it was. And that was the vibe I was kind of feeling, going into that one. And figuring the Vikings would go on the road and not win against Green Bay despite them losing to Denver, which is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. But I still, I'm going to believe it when I see it, that type of thing. I don't like the way the Vikings have played this season. I don't like the mentality of this team until tonight. I have hated the mentality of this Vikings team until tonight. Hated. And we still found a way to frickin' turn the frickin' ball over on the frickin' first drive of the frickin' game. We made a field goal last week against one of the worst teams in football. So we finally didn't turn the ball over on an opening drive or punt it, which is kind of like it's like a soft turnover because, you're giving the ball back to the other team because you failed. That kind of thing. It's a soft turnover. But then there's the forced turnover or forced or unforced mistake, that type of thing, turnover. Stupid. And like an actual turnover giveaway type of situation. And we did it again, and yet still somehow found a way to beat the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll see if there's a letdown. I'm going to stick with the pick that I had. I'm not going to say, I'm changing my pick now. We're going to beat Green Bay. Nope. Go out and beat them. It's not like somebody's going to, it's not like automatically I'm the worst podcaster in the history of the world for saying the Vikings are going to have a letdown against Green Bay in Lambeau Field next week. So that's what I'm standing with at this stage. With that said, we are going to take a quick break, and you're going to hear that segment right after this. And, of course, fan interaction will be segment number 3. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 2. And as you've probably heard in segment number 1, segment 2 is being recorded first. So Sunday night, basically, to kind of do the NFL roundup and the Packer preview. So again, just letting you know, it's a tough schedule. It's the way things are with a two-job type of situation, and just availability to be able to do the podcast this time of year on a Monday night game. So this is kind of how it has to be done. So, as per usual, we have a Sunday night football game flashing on the screen. Miami and Philadelphia. Epic stuff. And you get those kind of 80s and 90s looking Eagles uniforms which are pretty cool. Make you think about Randall Cunningham, the good old days, and such, before they started changing over to the different look when Donovan McNabb took over. I believe the first couple of years McNabb was the quarterback. They still had this older look, if I'm thinking correctly. But yeah, it's going back to the good old days. Like even Rodney Peete after Randall Cunningham. Definitely, they've had some cool quarterbacks in Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts is definitely not an exception to that rule. He's definitely been a pretty incredible find for the Philadelphia Eagles in the second round. Wish the Vikings could have gone in that direction, but of course they didn't. So we're going to look around the NFL, and again, we are going to preview the Packers, who did lose to the Denver Broncos today, just like they did many years ago in the Super Bowl. John Elway versus Brett Favre, 97 season and all that. What was that, Super Bowl 32? Way back in the good old days, huh? Minnesota Vikings and 49ers, of course, Monday Night Football, and you heard the review in the first segment. And I'm guessing they lost. So I'm guessing they lost. Maybe there's an epic surprise win, but 0 for 3 at home coming into the game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that one, unfortunately. The Bills and the Patriots, gosh, I mean, I don't know. The New England Patriots kind of showed up to play. Mac Jones with an incredibly accurate game, was at 83% completion percentage, which is third all time between, in single game performances. The other two were by a certain guy named Tom Brady. I think you've heard of him before, but still an incredible completion percentage. His QBR was only 77.9, ironically, but then again, that's a different rating. His regular rating was 126.7. Him being Mac Jones, no turnovers, only sacked once in the game. Again, a very efficient game by Mac Jones, and it helped get the job done. Despite the Bills didn't exactly play terrible, they just weren't anything special, and that's kind of been the theme for the Bills most of the season. They've been kind of up and down, and it's a shame. You're seeing teams like Cincinnati, Buffalo, they're not as good as they were the last couple of years, and I don't know. I mean, their window's going to close real quick in Buffalo. They better get giddy up real soon, unfortunately. Obviously, they still have the young, talented quarterback, and Stephon Diggs isn't that old or anything, but again, windows close quickly in the NFL. We all know what NFL stands for besides National Football League. The other name for NFL is not for long, and that's kind of the case. It could, they might not last. Hopefully the Chiefs are not for long. It's always the teams you can't stand, the ones that hang around longer, like the Dallas Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks, and in some cases, some of you hated the Patriots, which I did not. An impressive win for Bill Belichick, his 300th career win, and did it in a pretty impressive fashion, winning their first home game of the year, though, which is kind of lame. They were 0 for 3 in the regular season as well at home so far, them being the New England Patriots. But 29-25, fairly impressive win. Buffalo, again, some mistakes down the stretch, despite forcing the Patriots into a couple of turnovers as well, fumbles and such. But I don't know, a bit of a back and forth game, and Mac Jones was very clutch down the stretch, and that's kind of what matters most, as we'll now attempt to move forward here off of that one. But an impressive win, doesn't affect the Vikings in any form, unless somehow we magically go to the Super Bowl. But I don't think we'd be meeting up with either one of those teams if the Vikings somehow, by some grace of God, got to the Super Bowl. Bears and Raiders will wait for later. Interesting one there. Very interesting one. Another interesting one. The Cleveland Browns and the Indianapolis Colts. Vince Germano, Victoria, Australia, Melbourne, Australia's finest. Impressive. And a crazy back and forth battle. There's no doubt about that. Deshaun Watson had a concussion, or at least believed to be a concussion. And then somebody named P.J. Walker came in, threw an interception, 178 yards, and less than 50%, yet Cleveland found a way to score 39 points in the game because their defense is good, despite the fact they gave up 38 points. They forced a bunch of turnovers in the game, including another interception by Gardner Minshew, who's probably going to be the quarterback rest of the year, because Anthony Richardson has elected to have season-ending shoulder surgery, which has got to be the right thing to do for a rookie. And what's up with the Colts and their super high draft picks having major injuries, even all the way back to Peyton Manning, much later in his career and everything, but still, it's like it's been kind of a curse of late since Peyton Manning's neck injury. Then you have Andrew Luck and his kind of ongoing injury problems and retiring young, even though he probably could have came back and played. He just figured, hell with it. And then these years later with Anthony Richardson already, season-ending shoulder surgery as a rookie. JT, Jonathan Taylor, finally starting to earn his money a little bit. Decent game, 75 yards on 18 carries and a touchdown on that goal line smash, so good for him. Jerome Ford got in the end zone, Kareem Hunt, and again, yes, the running game did help for Cleveland. It wasn't dominant, but they got what they needed to get, including Kareem Hunt getting in the end zone twice. Nice fantasy pickup for some people out there, I'm sure, this past week, or just kind of threw him in the lineup and see what happens against this Colts team. Was kind of weird and stuff. They've had some interesting games. They certainly have, and so is Cleveland, who's now 4-2, and a pretty impressive road win, despite they only won by 1 point, but they scored 39 points in the game. Multiple sacks by Myles Garrett, including a pass deflection, and he also had a blocked kick, which was a huge thing and helped get Cleveland into a very promising field goal range and all that stuff. A couple of quarterback hits, I believe that probably counts for the sacks. Za'Darius Smith, former Viking with the Cleveland Browns, they again have a wonderful pass rush, and when the guy's healthy, he's a hell of a player. In Za'Darius Smith, he had a sack in the game. Jordan Elliott added another one. Cleveland's defense, again, giving up a lot of points, but definitely creating some major damage, the turnovers, and the blocked kick by your guy, Myles Garrett, who's got to be one of the... He might be an MVP candidate this season. He's been that good. And Cleveland looks great. Vince Germano's got to be pretty happy, I got to think. Hopefully Deshaun Watson's going to be okay, though. I mean, obviously, they've invested quite a bit in him. And now you got concussion issues. And he was 1 for 5 even before all that, so including an interception. A pass that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Kind of, obviously scrambling around, throwing the ball, and it was like, I'm not sure. Like, it's just like a misread or something. Didn't look good. It was very disappointing. And then, like, right after that, boom, hit in the head. Basically a collision as he was, getting rid of the ball and such. So, it almost looked like he could have had an ankle injury, but apparently it was more of a head type of situation. Maybe it was an ankle and I'm an idiot. So I apologize in advance if that was the case. And we're getting the white screen. Don't you just love white screens? It's always your favorite thing. Like it's like this dimension of nothing. The New York Giants, the New York Nephilim. Okay, I'm just kidding. The New York Fallen Angels defeated the Commanders, who are playing like fallen angels lately. Okay, I don't know. Sam Howell had a good game last week despite the Commanders' loss. Had an interception and not a good overall game. 50% completion percentage, sacked 6 times. That kind of helps. New York Giants have had a couple of weeks, back-to-back weeks, starting to look like Bill Parcells is the coach again and Bill Belichick is the defensive coordinator. They're led by the Bills beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. The great defense of the New York Giants in the 80s and early 90s that ended up beating the Bills. Yes, very impressive game. Remember last week, what an epic back and forth, very low scoring game with the Buffalo Bills where the Bills emerged victorious by the skin of their frickin' teeth. And, gosh, they could have been below 500 today had they blown the game against the Giants. The Giants had them, and they lost. It was kind of like a reverse of what happened with Buffalo in the Super Bowl way back in the day. Obviously, a missed field goal that was it Dennis Northcutt with the wide left. That was wide right, I believe. Not a good situation, unfortunately, for the Bills. They should have won the game. Very Blair Walsh-like situation. The Bills were the better team, but the Giants were good enough. That was in the Super Bowl, and same thing there, where the Bills emerged victorious, and all these years later in a meaningless, kind of meaningless game. It's kind of important, kind of not. Obviously you want to win your regular season games, but I don't know. The Bills, let's just put it this way, it would have been meaningful if the Bills lost because it would have really, really hampered their chances. The Giants, though, keeping the Commanders to only 7 points. Again, incredibly impressive defense suddenly in New York, and this time they do emerge victorious. And Tyrod Taylor, very solid. I think the New York Giants fan base are probably like saying, just keep Tyrod as the quarterback. Hell with that other guy, that DJ, the Daniel Jones guy that we're giving $1 billion to, and he's not even, he's a backup quarterback. I'm sorry. He's a backup. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's a backup too, but he's been good. He's kind of like what's been going on in Seattle. So, sometimes guys just get better after they've been Tyrod Taylor was well thought of when he first came in the league, and he didn't start off too good, and he became a backup. And then all these years, I don't know, he's a couple touchdowns, almost 300 yards against a pretty good Washington team. Very efficient. Quarterback rating of basically 117. I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. They only mustered 14 points, but the defense, again, obviously a huge story. A couple of sacks by Dexter Lawrence II. Kayvon Thibodeau, who was good on the night game last week as well, 1.5 sacks. Yeah, I mean, just an overall very impressive performance of the New York Giants, again, defensively. Getting the job done and, of course, forcing a turnover and all those sacks. 6 of them, to be exact, on Sam Howell. It's not like a crazy game. I remember the Vikings had 10 sacks back in the day in a couple games. Danielle Hunter, guys like that, just dominating. But, I don't know. Unfortunately, it didn't do us a whole lot either. But an impressive home win for the New York Giants, to say at the very least. I mean, it's better than nothing, Definitely better than nothing. And, yeah, a little bit of, at least they got the win this time. It's almost like they were owed something here after last week. They probably should have won that game. Buccaneers have been just kind of back and forth all year, just like the Falcons. I don't know. These NFC South division rivals, I don't know. The NFC South is just bleh. Desmond Ridder was solid, efficient, and he won a road game. Congratulations, Desmond Ridder. I believe he was winless on the road in his career. Congratulations, he won in Tampa Bay. Congratulations, Baker Mayfield. After beating the Vikings on the road in the season opener in fairly impressive fashion, you're a 1-3 home team. What the hell's up with you with that garbage? Teams don't want to win at home these days. I don't know what's going on. At least the Vikings certainly don't. Patriots didn't either. Baker Mayfield, 81 quarterback rating, a touchdown and another grape jelly stain on that nice shirt or nice jersey or whatever you'd want to call it with Baker Mayfield. Always got to throw that interception. I mean, I don't know how many games in a row it's going to be with Baker Mayfield with at least this many attempts having an interception added into the mix. Sounds like Baker Mayfield's life in a nutshell, at least as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Mike Evans did get the one touchdown, 40-yard long and all that stuff. Pretty good pass, but other than that, Baker Mayfield mediocre at best, and the Bucs fall 16-13 to the mediocre Falcons. Falcons are 4-3 though, so that's kind of impressive. That's kind of decent. It's a decent little game, and it's a nice road win as Desmond Ridder finally winning on the road. Congratulations, buddy. Now you might want to start being called a road warrior, huh? I don't know about that. I should mention as well, there's going to be a significantly less amount of games because 6 teams, count them, that many, are on the bye week, including some pretty, kind of important ones. The Cincinnati Bengals, like to talk about them. The Cowboys, the Titans are weird and crazy, and I don't know what the heck. I don't know who they are. They're weird. The Tennessee Bigfoots is more like it. Like, what the heck is a Bigfoot? Yeah, exactly. What the heck is a Bigfoot? New York Jets. I don't know. They landed for the week, I guess. They're grounded. Yeah. The Panthers are what they are, and then the Texans, who've been, they've had some nice moments. They could be vying for the 7th seed in the AFC. We'll see. Now that I've said C like 10 times, but yeah, how about them Texans? How about them Lions? No, not yet, but how about them Lions, huh? Mediocre bowl 17.0 here, but give them credit anyway, the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to win, some games. They've been okay. And the Rams have been, they're better than last year. Last year they had the Super Bowl hangover and they sucked. I mean, that's just all you got to say. They're another team that couldn't win home games this year. They finally won their first home game last week, I think it was. Or was it 2 weeks ago? They're 1-3 at home. What is up with these home teams? You get this nice SoFi Stadium or SoFi, whatever it is. They host the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl in their own building. I don't even want to think about who was at the game, and I'm tired of seeing pictures of certain celebrities at games, and just their hand. I just don't even want to know. I'm sorry. Kenny Pickett didn't turn the ball over, but he didn't do a whole lot else. But he was efficient completing passes, so I shouldn't give him. So I'm definitely not ripping on him at all. Kenny Pickett was better than Stafford because Stafford's another grape jelly guy. Got that grape jelly stain. Can't you just eat cleanly, buddy? Every peanut butter sandwich you eat, peanut butter and jelly sandwich you eat, you got to drop the grape jelly on your shirt. Always at least one interception. Yeah, I know. It's a bit that I've been doing all season. Hopefully you're not sick of it yet. Steelers 24, Rams 17, 4-2, and they have a winning road record. So good for the Steelers. Yeah, they're getting better, and Mike Tomlin is probably got to be a Hall of Fame coach, right? Some of you might be thinking that was like 10 years ago. I would have said that. 10 years ago, it probably been a little early, but just because he won a championship with a team that was already really good, I mean, okay. But yeah, it's a good team. It's a well-run team, obviously, well-coached and all that stuff. Tomlin probably should be a Hall of Famer, probably. And Steelers probably are going to be a playoff team, probably. But hopefully Cincinnati can say something about that, and they better get talking, if you know what I'm saying. A couple of sacks by Michael Hecht. What the heck is going on? The Rams, on the Rams anyway, a couple of sacks. That's what I'm trying to get to anyway. Steelers, their defense isn't all that sexy, but they're just, I don't know, they just kind of win games. They have some talent. They're not blowing anybody away. You know, they're kind of like the Steelers in the early 90s, where it's like, okay, they have some decent players, and they have a winning record, like 9-7, 10-6, and they'll probably lose in the first round, but at least they're respectable. It's kind of like that compared to the last couple of years where they were like, awful. Of course, the Vikings almost gave up like a 30-point lead or something against them. It was embarrassing. Luckily, we hung on and won that one. I believe that was what's his name's last game with the Vikings. Bashad Breeland. He fell, and he was pathetic in the whole game, and the fans were booing him. It was like during the big comeback by Big Ben, his obviously last performance in Minnesota against the Vikings. Great comeback, and it fell short by the slightest of margins, as the Vikings decided to frickin' win the game a couple weeks before Mike Zimmer was finally shown the door for good. And nobody's missing him too much, despite the fact that, I don't know, we look a lot like the same team with the same problems. We do. I guess the defense is a little better, but the offense still stinks. Yeah, after jumping up nicely the year before. Yeah, it was nice for a little while until we played the Giants of all teams. Tyrod Taylor might have been quarterback, but nope, Daniel Jones had his one super good game, a couple of super good games against the Donna Hill defense, and it made a huge difference. Nice pass deflection by the Miami defensive line against the Randall Cunningham looking Jalen Hurts with that uniform anyway. It looks like Cunningham because of the uniform, but obviously not built the same. Cunningham was kind of a lanky guy. Hurts is pretty big. He looks more like Warren Moon, honestly, including with the number, but yeah, a little more bulky. Seahawks. Seahawks are 4-2. They're another one of those. They're kind of like the Steelers. They have a shot at making the postseason, and they'll probably lose in the first round. A team that was annoying and threatening and dangerous for years and years, many years ago with completely different players, this and that. And Geno Smith with a very efficient game despite the grape jelly interception. I know, I can't stop myself. Solid performance. Kenneth Walker, the third, with 105 yards in the ground. A bell cow type of a game, because only 4 yards a carry, 26 carries. That's bell cow type of style. But they got the job done against Arizona, who just, I don't know, they're vying for the number one pick in the draft. That's about it. There's nothing a whole lot to say about the Arizona Cardinals. It's a nice, comfortable, easy win for the Seahawks for the most part, 20-10. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one, other than just the Seahawks they're okay. They're winning games. They're beating who they're supposed to. They're kind of losing who they're supposed to too, but they're 4-2 at the end of the day, on the first 6 games. Their first 6 games anyway. Arizona's already played 7, 1-6 on the bleeping season. And looking for that number one pick in the draft, as Viking fans are hoping we'll start doing the same if indeed we, lose to get set to San Francisco and Green Bay, which could very well happen, which would put us way in the hole. Broncos, Packers, one more first before that one. Chiefs and Chargers. Yeah, there was celebrity sightings at the game, and I don't care. Turn it off. Go away. Just shut up. Patrick Mahomes, another 4-touchdown performance. Thankfully, he threw an interception. As long as he makes a mistake somewhere. Justin Herbert, again, kind of getting desperate. A couple of INTs in the game, trying to get his team back in it. Unfortunate is the Chiefs just kind of took a big lead, and I don't know, the second quarter was by far the most high scoring of the game. We're talking 35 points in the second quarter, 21-14 in favor of the Chiefs. But unfortunately, it just ultimately did not work out. Steve Spagnuolo was able to get those key stops, those key sacks, and the key interceptions or key, turnovers, so to speak. He's obviously one of the better defensive coordinators out there. God, stop! I don't want to see it. Go away. I didn't ask for your stupid handshake. Now go away. It's like they just force it on you on these pages, which is really annoying. Oh, they did a handshake. Well, me and my coworker friend Alicious, we do a handshake too. I mean, who cares? Does the whole world have to see it? You know what I mean? Who cares? Jeez. Yeah, that he who shall not be named at 12 catches and 179 yards and a touchdown, and apparently him and his State Farm buddy, or Hy-Vee buddy, I guess, too. What the heck? Do they have to have both of them in every commercial? God, it's like, why don't they just have their handshake and why don't they date? I mean, that's what it's looking like. Okay, let's get off of that topic real quick. But apparently they're fourth all time in quarterback and tight end touchdowns. Yay. Yes, it's impressive. Yes, they're going to the Hall of Fame. Blah blah blah. Barring, like, I don't know, some terrible scandal or something. They're both going to the Hall of Fame and all that. But that doesn't mean I have to like them though. I didn't like Deion Sanders either. He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I don't like most of the Dallas Cowboys either. They're in the Hall of Fame, so it's the same thing. You don't have to like everybody. Call me childish all you want, I guess. But they're 6-1, and they've won 6 games in a row. I guess they lost the season opener, didn't they? That was funny. But ever since then, it was to Detroit, wasn't it? And ever since then, I don't know. Ever since then, they're looking like that team again, and it sucks. I'm not happy about it. Hopefully, they hit a wall real hard when it matters most in Cincinnati or something later on, or in Burrowhead Stadium. But the Chargers unfortunately dropped to 2-4. Heck, the Vikings found a way to lose to the Chargers because the quarterback is legit. He just didn't have the big moments against the Chiefs, but he certainly did against the little old Vikings in U.S. Bank Stadium. He certainly did, didn't he? Very clutch, but wasn't clutch in the playoffs last year, was he? They lost pretty early. And it's too bad because, I don't know, they should have done better, but I suppose he ran into Trevor Lawrence, if I remember correctly. I think old Peastein just got in the end zone, but I see a flag, though, so it doesn't mean holding on. Yeah, that's why nobody's celebrating. Yep, old Peastein got in the end zone, the former Chief. This would be a great Super Bowl, wouldn't it? It's pretty low scoring, though. You'd think it'd be a higher scoring game, but it's like there are good defensive players at both teams. The Dolphins and the Eagles. This would be a very cool, unique matchup, honest to God, wouldn't it? Oh, that's definitely holding, yeah. It's a good call. It's unfortunate, but it's a good call. Doggone it. Of course I'm cheering for Miami, even though I have a soft spot for Philadelphia nowadays because they played against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they should have beaten them, damn it. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I have a soft spot for Philadelphia, and I'd like the Phillies to win the World Series. I think I'm cheering for either Texas team. And, I mean, I like Arizona just fine. It's just I don't have a whole lot of faith in them getting it done. Oh, yeah, Jaguars and Saints. Yeah, well, Jaguars, at least they're decent. They're 5-2. They're 5-2. They keep climbing up the ladder. After kind of a meh start to the season. They're getting better and better and better and better and better. Trevor Lawrence, kind of a meh game. Logan Cook on a little cute play had a 13-yard completion. That's great. But Trevor Lawrence, 204 yards and a touchdown. Not the sexiest game ever, but got the job done when it mattered most. That's the whole key. He also scampered for 59 yards total during on 8 carries. Etienne Jr., again, one of those fantasy, third running backs that we'd all like to have, with a couple of touchdowns on 53 yards. The yards don't matter as much as the 2 touchdowns. Would have been nice. Nice to see old peanut butter and jelly stain himself, Derek Carr. He's probably the biggest of all of them, isn't he? because he puts up nice numbers, but there's that interception is always hanging around right there. That little one is always floating around under that INT column every bleeping time. It is every game. I'm probably wrong when I say that, but it sure the heck feels like it. It's a pretty good football game, 31-24. But the Saints hung in there tight, made a big, they hung in there. The Jaguars made the stops in the end when it mattered, and Trevor Lawrence obviously clutched down the stretch as well. Derek Carr attempted 55 yards as he was trying to bring the Saints back in this one. Alvin Kamara, kind of efficient, but kind of meh. He's basically like back in the day. 62 yards was exactly what you needed in 16 games to get to 1,000 yards. So it's like very average game, honestly, by Alvin Kamara. And he ain't getting any younger, is he? Taysom Hill was able to scamper into the end zone. Good for him. Kamara did also add 91 yards receiving, so I better shut up. He did a heck of a lot more than 62 yards on the ground. But the running game, mediocre for the Saints. Mediocre for the most part. It wasn't too bad. But, 301 yards receiving in the game total. Obviously, pass completions and anything. That's a great overall day for the Saints. Michael Thomas, again, only 42 yards, but a touchdown on 7 targets. Yeah, not one sack by that Saints defense. That would have made a difference. I'm telling you. It would have. Dwayne Smoot. Interesting. Smoot. I don't want to even think about Smoot at all when it comes to the Vikings. Bad memories, let me tell you. What a huge bust he was. And it was during that obnoxious, embarrassing Love Boat scandal. That was great. The Jaguars are perfect on the road, 3-0, and they're 5-2 overall. That'll get the job done. That could get you some home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, the Jaguars might have a first round. No, they won't. You need to be the number 1 seed. That's not going to happen. But maybe the Jaguars will be a threat to the number 1 seed or number 2 seed later on in the season. I can definitely see the Jaguars in the division round again and maybe making a bigger threat this year. Just that next step forward. Maybe they get to the AFC title game. Make things super interesting. Obviously, it's Trevor Lawrence, but some good defensive players that have been built up over the years in Jacksonville when they were, at the top of the draft every stinking year because they were so terrible for so long. Occasionally, you're going to hit on somebody, and as long as a decent number of players stick around, they don't all just wind up somewhere else because you never get better. They get frustrated and they want to get the hell out of there. That type of thing. So the Packers game has to be last because that's our preview. And I do believe I have all the history up, and I'm going to try to keep that fairly brief, even though you could talk about Vikings and Packers history until hell freezes over. Because well, once hell freezes over, we'll know the Vikings have at least 1 Super Bowl title. Well, I'll leave that exactly where it is. Detroit Lions might be thinking the same thing, though, because they lost big today to the Baltimore Ravens, 38-6. Ouch. That's all I gotta say about that. Jared Goff, a lot of people were talking about how he's probably the best quarterback in the division right now. And you know what? I'm going to disagree with them. No, I'm not going to disagree with them. He probably is the best quarterback in the division. Kirk Cousins, Kirky Mick check down? No, man. I'd rather have Jared Goff. Yeah, he's a little younger. Obviously, he was highly touted and all that good stuff. He looked really good early with the Rams. I talked about this a week ago. Dropped off and then, kind of meh his first year with Detroit when they couldn't win a game in Dan Campbell's rookie year. But then since then, he kept getting better and Campbell kept getting better. And, I was having an obviously it's off the mic private conversation with Vince Germano, obviously big Lakers fan, huge friend for many years now, over a decade, from Australia. He likes the Timberwolves as well and all that. Like I do Timberwolves Explosion. That's how I met him. But he's also a Cleveland Browns fan. So it's not all L.A. with Vince Germano. Lakers fan, but Browns fan. Interesting choice there. We were talking about Dan Campbell a bit and how he just loves him. And I do too. And that it's ironic how somebody like Dan Campbell comes into Detroit and, talks about, hitting people's kneecaps and stuff. He's just talking, like we're going to do everything we can to win games, that type of thing. That's his whole point. And then you get highfalutin, big-time offense and defensive coordinators from Super Bowl champion teams or conference champion teams, that kind of thing. that type of deal. He's the greatest offensive coordinator ever because he was the coordinator for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. I'm not throwing shade at anybody or anything, but I mean, maybe I am, but I'm going to do it anyway. But so many others. Brad Childress, with the Eagles. Highfalutin, this and that. But what did he really do for the Eagles? He was under Andy Reid. They had Donovan McNabb. They went to the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. They lost, but they went to the Super Bowl. They lost by a small margin. And I don't know. They get the big job, and they're not the highfalutin stud. Steve Spagnuolo, incredible defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. Goes to the Rams, nothing happens. Nothing. Goes back to being a coordinator. He's fantastic. I think Robert Saleh is fine. I think that's obviously former 49er defensive coordinator. I think he's fine. Just kind of dropped off. Obviously, a lot of times, just kind of obviously ran into the injuries and such with huge, like last year there was injuries, and of course that I don't think Zach Wilson being a bust was his fault in Robert Saleh's case, or Zach Wilson just not being ready to be a starter. We'll leave it at that. And then occasionally it does work out, like obviously Bill Belichick, but it takes forever. Sometimes it takes a second or third job to get there. Bill Belichick. He was okay with Cleveland. He was obviously the defensive coordinator with great Giants teams under Bill Parcells, like I talked about earlier. And then he emerges into something. But the whole point is, a lot of times these big-name guys end up doing a whole lot of nothing when they become a head coach, these big-name coordinators. And then you get some random, like a tight ends coach or something out of nowhere, kind of like a Mike Tice type in a lot of ways. And he starts off kind of weird, like what the hell's going on there? And then all of a sudden, a few years later, it's like, you know what? They just might have something. And that's kind of the whole point. Sorry, long story longer. Unfortunately, they did get thromped today. They look like kind of the crappy Lions of old, but it's a bad day. Hopefully things can turn around for them. Lamar Jackson had an incredible game. 357 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, and his quarterback rating was pretty much perfect. Lamar Jackson also ran the ball in for a touchdown. Baltimore's 5-2, despite a couple of frustrating losses this year. They're still 5-2, so huge respect for the Baltimore Ravens. Their defense is insanely good, and their offense is very talented as well, thanks to their great quarterback, or very talented quarterback, Kyle Van Noy, with 2 sacks for that Baltimore Ravens pass rush. So sorry I babbled so much about that, but it's just, I support Dan Campbell in a lot of ways. I wouldn't mind having him as a Vikings coach. I wouldn't. I've been very disappointed in Kevin O'Connell this year. So I'm not saying Kevin O'Connell's inferior, but this year he has been. Can you argue with that conversation? Can you really argue with the conversation that Kevin O'Connell's been inferior to Dan Campbell this season? I don't think you really can. The Bears. What's going on with the Bears? So let me get this straight. They destroy the Washington Commanders. They play the Vikings the next week, and I don't know, they were terrible. And the Vikings finally win a game. Yay, that's awesome. But just for the sake of we win a game, that's great. We won our second game anyway. The cute little win for the Vikings. It's nice, you beat an inferior team that barely showed up to play, despite the fact you want to honor Dick Butkus, but I guess they did that against the Commanders. And now they destroy the Raiders, 30-12. So interesting football team over there in Chicago. 30-12 by the Raiders. Impressive win, actually. And the Raiders have, I don't know who they are, but of course Brian Hoyer at quarterback didn't help. I like Brian Hoyer just fine, but I don't know. He's probably not really an NFL quarterback anymore at this point, or certainly not somebody you'd want starting a game. Through 32 passes, 3 interceptions total with him, and Aiden O'Connell had the other one, other than Hoyer's 2. Tyson Bagent was okay. He was okay. 21 of 29. The accuracy stats are there, but the weird duck throws are there too. That's one thing you got to talk about. Donta Foreman, 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Pretty good game. 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Almost 6 yards a carry. He did well against the Vikings also. So give him credit. DJ Moore, obviously a nice player. 54 yards and 8 catches. That's not a whole lot to brag about. And the Bears did get a sack from Justin Jones. But a nice, impressive win for the Bears. Their second win of the season. The Vikings lose, well, the Bears will still be in last because of the tiebreaker, ironically. So we'll see what happens there, or if the Vikings have already lost, of course, because it's the second segment. Sorry. Packers and backers. That's the next game, again, after San Francisco. They lost to the Denver Broncos on Sunday, or today, or whatever you want to call it. We'll say Sunday at the time you're listening to this, just because for the sake of, chronological conversation. Jordan Love wasn't bad. Like, completed 1/3 of his pass, or 2/3 of his passes. A couple of touchdowns, but did have an interception. And just a mediocre performance overall by the Green Bay Packers. They only mustered 17 points in Denver. They dropped to 1-3 on the road, and they're 2-4 overall, just like the Vikings. Broncos, of all teams, who have been a massive disappointment when you consider, like, say, imagine 3 years ago, you find out that in a couple of years, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson will be leading the way for the Denver Broncos. That could be a pretty dangerous football team, right? They suck. They're 2-5, and they just won their second game of the year over the Green Bay Packers. So just wrap your head around that. Makes the Packers look terrible. It was a road game, and road games are never easy, but still, geez, what the heck. I'm not sure what to make of Jordan Love. He's good one week, he's not good the next, and then he's just kind of all over the place. So I don't know what to make of him. I think he's a mediocre quarterback. I don't think he is the next Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre type of thing. I think we're free from, suffering for 20 years or the next 15 to 20 years or so of Jordan Love torching the Vikings. Though he may have a good game or two against the Vikings, just might beat us. But at the same time, I'm not that convinced that Jordan Love is going to be that next guy. Aaron Rodgers wasn't exactly dazzling right out of the gate, but there were signs. And he was obviously a first-round pick. It was supposed to go number 1 or number 2. For some strange reason, slipped all the way down to Green Bay of all teams possible. And Alex Smith was a disappointment. So it's just ironic how that all turned out. The guy who did go number 1 to one of the most sexy franchises in NFL history, San Francisco 49ers, took him like half his life to finally become good. And then a few years later, he has another, it's another Joe Theismann type injury. But at least he'd had some good games for Kansas City and Washington along the way before that terrible event took place for Alex Smith. As for the Green Bay Packers, obviously the history is incredible, blah, blah, blah. The Packers do lead the all-time series. It used to be like neck and neck, but obviously the Aaron Rodgers years kind of helped push it over the top. The Vikings used to have a winning record against the Packers, especially because of the 1970s. But generally speaking, it had always been annoyingly close because of it just is what it is, even when the Vikings were really good. But, yeah, during the 2000s, like the late 2000s, and, yeah, most of the Aaron Rodgers era, that's when the Packers have emerged way ahead of the Vikings. And apparently in the 1980s, the Vikings were awful against Green Bay as well. It's just crazy when you look at these stretches. From 79 to 80, the Vikings lost 3 in a row. And then we finally won a game, killed them pretty bad in Lambeau of all places, and then lost 2 more. Then we squeaked out a close one in 1983, and then lost 5 more. Then we won 2 in a row, lost 4 more. It's just like, again, it's like the government. It's like the government in a bad way, where you take 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. That's pretty much what the 80s were for the Vikings and Packers, which is kind of funny and interesting. Whereas the late 60s and 70s and all the 70s Vikings absolutely destroyed Green Bay. There's a stretch from September 22nd, 1968, all the way up until, oh my God, it just keeps going. A overtime tie, all the way up until an overtime tie in 1978. The Vikings only lost 3 times at Green Bay, and then we won another one in overtime, and then we started losing. That's when the losing started in 1979, November 11th. Kennedy's, what was it? Well, how many years would that be? 16 years after the Kennedy. No, that's the wrong day. That's Flag Day. Kennedy assassination is the 22nd. My apologies. But it's just kind of funny how it was like a dominant back and forth. Of course, the first few years, the Green Bay Packers absolutely slaughtered, owned, demolished the Vikings because it was the Bart Starr era when they won the first 2 Super Bowls ever. It was an absolutely great football team. Absolutely great. Where the Vikings only won 3 games until we finally won. Until 1968, the Vikings had only won 3 games against the Green Bay Packers. That's a 7-year freaking period playing the team twice a year. Do you realize how bad that is? It's terrible. And then it kind of went that way for the Packers in most of the 70s. And then it went kind of, like the 3 steps forward. No, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back kind of type of thing in the 80s. For some reason, the 80s Packers were better. They did make the playoffs, and they were a decent team. And then in the Favre era, there was a lot of back and forth, interestingly enough, until they started becoming like literally a Super Bowl contender. The Vikings still kind of owned the Packers. Like we swept them in '93, which is kind of funny. That's when they started becoming a kind of a dangerous team. That's when Reggie White first got there, if I remember correctly. He left Philadelphia. And everybody's like, Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. And it's like, yeah, right, get out of here. Favre was too inconsistent and blah, blah, blah. And they're like this 9-7, 10-6 team. That's not a Super Bowl contender. And then they were 13-3, and they did get their title. But after that, it took them until 2010 to win another one, which is weird. It took them until 2010 to win another Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So, again, 2 Super Bowls in that 30-year period with Rodgers and Favre is pretty embarrassing, actually. But nobody's crying for them. Nobody is crying for the Packers. Nobody, ladies and gentlemen. I'd still take 2 Super Bowls though, versus what? How many NFC title games did we go to? 98 during that stretch anyway. 98, 2000, 2009, and 17. Those are all during the Favre and Aaron Rodgers era. 2 for each, actually, because Favre was the quarterback of the Packers in 2000, of course, and in 98. And then Rodgers was still quarterback in 17, and, of course, in 2009. So, 4 NFC Championship losses versus 3 Super Bowl appearances with 2 wins. Not bad. Despite the fact they had better they had the kind of quarterbacks you think they should have won 3 or 4 Super Bowls with each of them. At least a lot of people would see that, but it doesn't always work out that way. And they did go to like 19 NFC title games with Aaron Rodgers. If you know, they did. They went to a ton, but then lost most of them except for that one in 2010 against a putrid Bears team that didn't belong there. It was kind of funny. So that that's kind of the history lesson here. Obviously, a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The the Vikings and the Packers both earned a split last year. Yeah, that's right. Because on New Year's Day, the Vikings can't play on holidays. They just can't. Okay, last year they had a good Christmas Eve game. I think it was against the Giants. Yeah, it was the coolest game ever in a lot of ways because we just received like a 12-inch or 13-inch snowfall or something like that. It was impressive. But it was that nice, light, featherweight snow. I just love that kind of snow because it was pretty cold. It was like 10 degrees. But it was beautiful. It was like a beautiful light snow that was easy to shovel, despite the fact there was a lot of it. And it just had this feeling like when you had the white logo, the white jerseys. It was the Minnesota Vikings whiteout with the white uniforms and the white shirts in the building and everything. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And it just felt like a nice, tasty frosting on a cute little cinnamon roll that you just pulled out of the oven. That's kind of what it felt like to me. There was just a nice vibe. It was a fun game. And unfortunately, a few weeks later, we'd play that same team and blow it at home and be done in the first round. Just kind of sucks how that all turned out. But, yeah, why did I even get into that? I think it was because there was a good vibe going on around that time. And then a week later, we get slaughtered in Green Bay. And it was kind of like a reality check. Like, don't get too confident about this team. Don't. Because, 41-17. Yikes. And that's the last time the Vikings played the Green Bay Packers after a very impressive season opening win on 9/11 in 2022, 23-7. Very impressive. The Vikings' Donatell defense actually was good in the season opener, and that's why I called the title Cowabunga, because I was thinking of Donatello, of the Turtles. But yeah, because there was good defense in that game. It frustrated Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and ever since. So yeah, okay, that's enough of the history lesson. I think you get the point here. What another super long segment, but segment 2 is segment 2. That's how we do it here. The Vikings versus this current Packer team. I mean, it's two mediocre teams, and I just, am I overconfident about it? Am I confident at all about it? I don't know. And now I'm getting all kinds of frustrating white screens of death here, which are really annoying. But how do I really feel about it coming in? It's like, it's a winnable football game. But are the Vikings serious enough to take care of business? And are the Green Bay Packers serious enough? That's the other side of it. You think they should be. It is another nooner, right? It's another Sunday game. Yes, but it's at Lambeau. Yep, Sunday, October 29th. The Vikings very rarely play well in Lambeau. I'm going to pick a loss. Yeah, I have to. It's kind of the Vikings' history, and I think the Vikings split with Green Bay, and I think I was picking this all season. I figured the Vikings would have a better record right now. Like, we beat Carolina. Yay, they're terrible. And we beat the Bears. Yay, they're terrible. Two teams vying for the number 1 pick in the draft. Of course you lost to the Chiefs. Huge shocker. Losing to the Bucks, what the blank. Losing to the Chargers, disappointing. See, that's at least 2 games right there. Things could be a little different. We'd be 4-2. It's that simple. Just, beat Tampa, you schmucks, and take care of business against the Chargers. You played pretty good in that game, but then you choked. You know what I'm saying? And we played great against Philadelphia and lost. We played great against Kansas City, honestly, but found a way to blow that one. And, of course, Patrick Mahomes and his talent, and yay, and at least that idiot didn't show up, or whatever, that singer that everybody thinks they like. Yeah, so right now I'm going to go with the loss, which really sucks. Which probably means start trading people if you can. But obviously Danielle Hunter's value is off the charts. He's probably the MVP of the team this year, along with guys like Jordan Hicks and such. Justin Jefferson's like MVP, obviously, but, he's out until who knows? Who knows? Like a week ago, he's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So that's, it's kind of like don't put him in any more risk if you don't need to. If it's just a lost season, it's a lost season. So that type of deal. And it just might end up being a lost season with San Francisco and Green Bay back to back. Even going to Atlanta, they're actually good at home. Let's not forget that. So it's I don't know. It's a funky season. Anything could happen. It's the old Bollinger Band effect, where you might jump up and get way better, or you might just drop off the face of the earth. Unfortunately, I'm thinking drop off the face of the earth is probably more likely, and I'm guessing more than one of you are agreeing with that. Just depending on what happens with what happened with the San Francisco game. Again, I apologize right now. This is past tense, or it's in the future. I mean, at the time when in reality that you're listening, it's past tense. So it's just the way I had to record this. But Green Bay will beat the Vikings. Final score, in a very frustrating fashion. Something along the likes of 24-21. Close game. Maybe we miss a field goal, or they kick one at the end. We don't get the stop we need to. This or that, or there's a crucial turnover, which tends to happen a little bit often with the Vikings down the stretch. And maybe at the beginning we put ourselves behind the 8 ball and can't catch up. With that said, Green Bay wins 24-21 over the Vikings on Fox. Fox at noon on Sunday, the 29th of October, as we celebrate Halloween yet again. Do check out the Castlevania Video Game Flashback. It's a retro video game podcast if you care about that kind of thing. Castlevania, the Castlevania review, just in time for Halloween, has been released. And if you'd like to hear the game review of one of the most iconic Nintendo games in history, check it out. With that said, we'll be right back for fan interaction right after this. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 3, fan interaction. I don't think there were any calls. I tried to make absolute sure And if there are, I am deeply sorry. I'm just kind of doing one quick little filter through, but no call-ins. Obviously, a very exciting and hopefully a season-changing win for the Minnesota Vikings. Are we on the verge of something special? Who knows? We've seen a lot of great performances, individual performances before, like individual game performances that, later on end up, not leading to a whole lot. So we'll have to wait and see how things turn out. Upon the completion of, the beginning of this show, the Arizona Diamondbacks have just won the National League. So they're going to the World Series to play the Texas Rangers. Who would have ever thought Texas Rangers versus the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series? So quite a surprise. Philadelphia lost the World Series last year to the hated Astros. This year, both Houston and Philadelphia knocked out by Texas and Arizona. So congratulations, Arizona Diamondbacks. And, of course, the Texas Rangers. Arizona is undefeated in the World Series. They only went once way back in 2001. And Texas has lost the 2 times they made it. I believe I talked about that in the last segment. Anyhow, let's get to the Minnesota Vikings. The Twitter account, the X. I don't anticipate this segment being too long, but it is what it is. I wasn't very interactive, but those of you that were, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Mad Martin, again, this is on Twitter or X, at Purple Mafia Show. Mad Martin out of Northern Scotland says, Sunday, stress-free. I'm expecting an embarrassing performance tomorrow if you cannot pick up points against the Bears. Just look at some of the stats this season. 29th in first quarter points at 1 point per game. Ooh, that is crazy. 1 point per game in the first quarter. No rushing touchdowns. 32nd in TOP with the top 5 offensive line. Yeah, like our offensive line is pretty darn good. Arizona Diamondbacks celebrating in the locker room, the champagne and all that, and the goggles. Yep, seeing that going on now. Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series again. Wow, it's been 22 years. So, still remember Alex Gonzalez getting the game-winning hit off of Mariano Rivera, knocking off the New York Yankees and ending that dynasty right in front of all of us. It was pretty impressive. So it was like a game-winning Gene Larkin type of hit. 10 years after Gene Larkin had his game-winning hit against the Atlanta Braves. So, yeah, crazy to think the Atlanta Braves were still making the playoffs and the NLCS and all that a couple years later against like Florida and such. So pretty wild. Yep, that's the X. Well, actually, yeah, David Hickey out of Iowa says, we're looking good so far. 19-7. I hope the missed extra point doesn't haunt us, and thank God it didn't. Yep, so agreed there. The Instagram, which has become the main place, I guess. I mean, it could be X or Instagram. Obviously, Facebook is being stupid and kicking me off or something. I don't know what they're doing, but who knows. So we're going to continue off of the last episode, Purple Mafia episode 409, You Cannot Be Serious, like John McEnroe. Mark Carlson out of Iowa, and now I've screwed it up. I almost dropped an F-bomb. He says, the download is here. I am hitting play right now. Cool. Thank you, Mark, always. So we'll continue into the actual game thread, which looks a lot busier than last week. So that's wonderful. Mike Dale says, so glad they're putting TJ Hawkinson to good use. Finally. Yep. He had 11 catches, didn't he? Yep, Mike Dale out of the New York area. Mark Carlson, Iowa, of course, says, hell of a game. Love how the defense played. I would give them the Tarkington. And, dang, there was some negative plays, but I really can't say who would earn the Ponder Memorial. I guess Madison, yeah, because dropping the touchdown, and he's been so bad. Nice win, but I am not sold until we can do this week after week. Skull, same here. I'm very paranoid about even just going into Green Bay. Yep, and he says, Skull, here comes kickoff. So, unfortunately, these were kind of back, and the chronological order's all over the place on here, but that's okay. As long as you post, I really appreciate it. Mark Carlson says, no fumbling, please, not tonight. Thankfully, we didn't, but we had one interception, but we did win the, what do they call it? The takeaway battle for once. Mark Carlson, going back to Sunday night, was saying, watching Sunday night football, the game was much more digestible when it was tied. As for the Monday night game, I'll be watching and cheering, but I am grumpy. The Vikings are not who they say they are. They are worse, and they are historically horrible on late games. Let's hope it's close and not get so lopsided. And thankfully, the Vikings did lead most of the way, but it was close most of the way, except for the 19-7. It felt like we might actually win by 2 scores for the first time since 2019, but the Vikings did not win. They did not win their first multi-score game since 2019. Here he is, Mike Dale in the post-game thread, ladies and gentlemen. So this is always a great thing. Oh, that's a biggie. Yep, I like it very much. Looks like it's, I swear I saw Mark Carlson in there as well. Maybe it's just a like he liked it or something. Okay, that's totally fine, because obviously either way, Mark Carlson or Mike Dale, really appreciate both of you. And here is Mike Dale. Here he goes, out of the area of New York, of course, closer to Buffalo. Sounding like Lieutenant Joe Kenda here, except instead of my, he says, well, I'm shocked that a proud, angry, hungry 49ers team that suffered a loss against a lesser team in the Browns last week would even allow an even lesser team, such team opponent on paper as our beloved Vikings to snatch another victory from their grasp in back-to-back weeks. I have to say that a diminished Vikings team without our best player, Justin Jefferson, that we would have even stood a monicum of a chance against a juggernaut of an NFC force as that of the Santa Clara / San Jose 49ers, yeah, pretty much, right, is impressive in its own right. I thought that at the beginning of the night for sure that we would be heading headlong into a proverbial spinning buzzsaw full of Silicon Valley induced doom against determination, retaliation, and retribution that should have left us feeling an agony with the 5th loss of our season, much to the chagrin of the Purple Mafia faithful. However, somehow our Minnesota Vikings prevailed and pulled off the win. I'm speechless and left barely sober in its aftermath. The pros, way to step up Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. The absence of JJ, that'd be Justin Jefferson, of course. Yep, in the absence of him, they definitely picked up the slack and showed up to be counted. Kirk Cousins did a great job and was poised in the face of a determined 49ers defensive rush. That said, unequivocally, the player of the game, the Fran Tarkenton Award, goes to Cam Bynum, who turned this game on its head. The entire defense in general made crucial plays that needed to be made at the most opportune times. Cons. I really can't think of anything other than Greg Joseph missing another extra point. And I'll include Madison's drop touchdown. That win feels real good, though. I have to say it's kind of counterintuitive, counterproductive. The sad reality of it is that this win is a bit detrimental towards our goal of driving us down to the pecking order into a decent rookie replacement quarterback for an aging Kirk Cousins in the 2024 draft. We are probably not making the playoffs. Yeah, I think it's still not that easy, and we should probably not be too keen on winning too many more games. Where to go from here? We are at a crossroads. My only goal is to witness a Super Bowl championship before I die. I'm with you all the way with that. Mike Dale says everything else I've already witnessed in agonizing, disappointed apathy. Yep. Oh, that was fun. That was a good one. Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. And yes, I want to win a championship. I don't want to get to the Super Bowl and lose. Like a lot of people are saying, at least we got back. Like if we get there and lose. No, you got to get there and win. I want to win the Super Bowl. Getting there and losing would be devastating, I think. It's just not enough. I'm sorry. It's just not. As greedy as that might sound. But yeah, Mike Dale, that was awesome. That's a gold star for Mike Dale. Silver for Mad Martin, a bronze for Dave Hickey. It's that simple. Oh, and Mark Carlson also will share a silver. So thank you guys so very much for an amazing... Thank you guys so much, for taking part in this amazing victory for the Minnesota Vikings. Certainly the most entertaining game of the year. And in a lot of ways, we can call it the feature presentation. Last year, the feature presentation was the Buffalo Bills. That win, that was obviously the feature presentation of the season. The whiteout was a fun game. It was a very fun game, and it was really cool. But unfortunately, the way the Giants kind of hung in there was like it was a portent of what was to come in the next couple of weeks, where we were going to play the Giants again, and unfortunately it would go the other direction, despite being in our house again, as was a huge damn shame. It was a portent, like a sign of what was to come, unfortunately. So, hopefully, one way or another, it's kind of like I hate to be negative, but sadly it probably is the feature presentation of the season. I'm not sure the Vikings are going to have a better game this year. If they do, well, okay, let's get the parade route ready to go. It'd be amazing if it ended up happening at the right place in the right time, and all of that, because obviously a great accomplishment going along with a great performance is what matters the most in terms of calling it the game of the year, the feature presentation. So that's what I'm going to call the title of this episode. Obviously, you're seeing it and have seen it the whole time you've been listening. It's just I'm finally coming up with the title at the very end, even though I was thinking it late. I was thinking that during the second segment and even the first segment as well. First segment, thinking about the whole feature presentation dealy. With that said, I passed out the stars. Please, please, please listen to me when I talk about algorithms. Anybody out there that has not given a positive rating for Purple Mafia on iTunes or any other app out there, please do. Please do give a positive 5-star rating. If you want to help the show, that's the best way to do it. Please, please, please. A 5-star rating would really, really help. The show needs to kind of get going in the right direction again. It definitely took some hits the last couple of years, especially in 2020 and 21. Things really went downhill, and the show really hasn't recovered all that great since then, at least from my point of view. And it's gotten kind of lonely and stupid as well when it comes to ratings. Like, other shows get all these ratings, and this one just kind of stopped getting ratings, and I don't know why. So if you could do that, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I'll give you a big shout out to say if you write a review, I'll definitely give you a big shout out, and you're guaranteed a star of some form. Might even be the gold. With that said, thank you again so much for listening, and we will, hopefully the Vikings can continue the momentum if this is a season of destiny. If it's just a waste of time and we're going to be 8-9, I don't know. I don't know. Keep on losing. What the hell? Hello, Johnny Manziel? I don't know. Hello, someone else who can help this team go in the right direction. With that said, take care. Have a great week, and we will be back to talk about the Packer game next Sunday.